One thing we've been hearing from clients is, well, I like to put in emails into AI, put in my emails to do tone work, to make me sound less angry with this client, to make me sound like I'm more clear, more direct. How do you guys respond to that?
I wince as someone with a background in communication theory, including all things organizational communication and emotional intelligence and things like that. I think of all of the instances, aside from business, think of the instances in our personal lives. And I discuss this with clients as well, where we in our personal lives put out some kind of written communication in the form of a text, and it's totally misinterpreted because of the punctuation being missing or the wrong emoji. It's nonverbals as well. I mean, how many of us have gotten into arguments over or misunderstandings over information communicated by text because we misinterpreted the tone? And AI is not going to help that because it can't think, it can't feel. It does not have that emotional intelligence. It's what we say when you put something into an AI tool, you're going to get something very similar back because it is mimicking and digesting what you've put into it. So I think when it comes to tone and emotional intelligence, those elusive EQ skills that we talk about, we cannot rely on AI to do that for us because that's simply not how it works.
It's interesting to me. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say Sarah was right, but we can skip that Sarah was right on part if you want.
I'm okay with that. I could be wrong.
What I was going to say is that opportunity to build emotional intelligence, I think, is important, Sarah. I get writing angry, and maybe I've written an angry email or two in the past, but running it through the AI, they treat it as, hey, calm me down. And I can also understand pulling that emotion out, but you do miss an opportunity to build emotional intelligence. You do miss an opportunity to learn how to do it yourself. And I would also say you miss an opportunity to build memory. Let me explain what I mean by build memory. When we interact with material, engage with material, it becomes part of us more than if it's just generated or outside of us. That AI creates the outside. So if I run my angry email through AI and then copy and paste and I haven't written it, I'm not saying that doesn't do the tone work to make it less angry. It does to some extent. But then I don't necessarily remember what I said. So if I'm interacting with that person later, I better hope that I remember what the AI did, but I didn't write it. So that memory is not really going to be there. Maybe you open the email at that moment. Maybe you don't have the opportunity. It's a gamble, but I think there is an opportunity for tone work. Pam, what are your thoughts?
That is such a great point. So that's true not only with an email, but with any kind of document. If I've got to present something to a client and I've let AI write it, then to your point, I've got to know exactly what AI put in there. So I guess, but the thing about emails to me is sometimes it's okay to send an angry email. And
snap.
Well, it is. I mean, so sometimes, I guess the issue that I run into with emails is this. Everybody wants to start with, hope all is well. Hope this email finds you. It's that same old crap at the very beginning of every email, which is insincere, right? So just cut that out first. But the other thing I run into, especially with women, is they tend to worry too much about tone. I promise you that most of the people who are worried about tone in an email are women and not men. I don't know this, I'm guessing, but just based on my experience, I promise you that is the case. And so I think one of the problems is that women need to understand it's not about your tone and coming off one way or another. It is about the language you use and how you present the information, right? So women, and we know this, in emails use please a ton more than men do, tons. right? Because if they don't, it's, oh, she's just too direct or too aggressive or whatever the case may be. Men can get away with it. And I'm not trying to make this into a, bash men thing, because that's not what I'm doing. But
she does have a son, for the record. She does have a son.
And a husband and a male dog. So, but I do think that women tend to do this. I had a woman, this was years ago, she was wondering why people did not act upon her email. She was a manager, she was a director, position of leadership. You read her emails and it's like, well, when you get a chance, if you could, these wiggle words and when I spoke to her about it, I'm like, well, you're using too many wiggle words. If you could, when you get a minute, please, that kind of thing. In business, there are no pleases. This is what needs to be done, and this is what it needs to be done by. Yes, I'm very direct. But there's a way to ask those things or to tell people those things that have nothing to do with please and thank you and all that, thank you in advance and all that stuff. So my point is simply that I think the issue of tone can be misleading in terms of asking AI to do that for you, when the reality is you can do it yourself if you understand what you're trying to do in the email and who you're writing for. So that's all I'm saying about that.
And you can still include some of that tone. One of the things I talk with clients about is when they ask me that very question about, well, I don't want to come across as to this or to this, men and women. I say, well, in an email specifically, try reorganizing, right? Rearranging. Put your bottom line up front. Hey, so-and-so, can I get that report by close of business tomorrow? By the way, it was great seeing you at today's meeting. Hope you're having a great afternoon. Best ... Right. You're still putting that tone, but the action item is upfront and direct. Because I've had some folks say culturally for them, they were concerned about tone and sort of things like that. And one woman was very, very concerned because of her cultural background and different things like that. And I've had folks, when I say that, well, just try rearranging it, bottom line up front. And that's that whole starting with the most important information and leading down to information that's less and less and less important, especially in emails, because, if folks want to read the whole thing, great. And if they don't read the whole thing, they've got the action item right up at the top. And it makes it work better for everyone.
I mean, expectations for emails are that they are going to be short and to the point. Mm-hmm. Not you're writing a dissertation. First we climbed out of the primordial soup, and then at the very end you get to whatever the action is. Right. So, I mean, you have to. I mean, that's part of the whole thing is understanding the purpose of an email and reader expectations for an email. Instead of going on and on and on and on, I hope that they'd find you well and all this junk at the very beginning, to your point, Sarah, but asking or telling or whatever it is first so that the reader knows. Because when you do that, when you tell me exactly what you need right up front, that respects my time as the reader. When you respect my time as the reader, automatically your ethos or image, which we talk about in our workshops, goes up. Because you're not making me waste a bunch of time going through a bunch of junk that I don't care anything about or don't need to know. So when you think about tone isn't just the words you use, to your point. It's also about how you organize. You're setting the tone for the relationship and for the email by putting the information that the reader needs up front and using the subject line effectively, which is another thing we talk about. But tone's more than words. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
All this information, applying it back to AI. A lot of people may say, but AI can do all of this. It can reorganize it for me. It can pull out those wiggle words if I tell it to. And while I see that point, I would also point out that we've just said a lot of information that is from learned human experiences, such as the relationship you have with the particular person you're writing to. And while AI may get there someday, it certainly is not. And as evidence to this, look at how many jobs there are for AI trainers, and they are paying well. Believe me, I looked and I'm like, that's juicy. Do I have time? No. But if it's so important and they're paying so much and they have so many jobs, that tells me right there you're not where you need to be to replace a human, because you're having to hire so many humans. And then that's assuming humans. That's assuming that all humans think alike. You are basing it on these few humans that come in, and then every human thinks like that, right? No. And while I love Sarah very much, she and I do think differently, believe it or not. And so
Shocking,
we may
I
write
know.
things differently. I know. And different is not necessarily wrong.
Right.
And that's
We
something
approach
to
things
keep in
differently.
mind. And that's
We approach
okay.
things differently. We're different humans. Yeah.
I love that point, because that's one of the things in our workshops. That's one of the reasons we don't teach grammar. We teach people how to take critical thinking and apply it to writing, because my relationship with Sarah is very different from Elizabeth's relationship with Sarah. So if I'm writing to Sarah, it's going to be different than how Elizabeth would write to her. And so that is the thing. I think that one of the things that AI misses, it assumes, to Elizabeth's point, which is a great point, that every human being thinks the same, that your relationship with every single human being that you're writing to is exactly the same. And that's not true. And we all know that's not true. So when you don't have the foundational pieces of understanding who you're writing for and what you're trying to accomplish, and you're using AI, to me, that's a huge misstep. You're potentially missing the boat.